Earlier on, we saw chaos in the chamber as members of Parliament tried to do business of the House. My colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, has been there monitoring events for us. Parker, bring us up to speed. What led to this chaos?
There's a total breakdown here in Parliament, I should say. The members of the minority and the majority are disagreeing over a motion to reverse the approval of the 2020 budget that was done or conducted yesterday. You remember that one-sided majority NPP House approved the 2020 budget whilst reversing the Speaker's earlier ruling that was last Friday. Today, Haruna Owusu has moved a motion to rescind or set aside the approval of the budget yesterday. Well, that generated a lot of controversy. In fact, the debate on this motion has lasted close to 2 hours. And even after that, there hasn't been any resolution. Now, I will take time and then break down the information to you. So when Haruna Owusu moved the motion, well, the Speaker first of all indicated that there was no prior approval, prior notice to him with regards to the motion that he wants to move. Per the practice of Parliament, if you want to move a motion of that nature, you have to notify the Speaker in advance. Osei Owusu indicated to us that Haruna Owusu did not do that. However, he decided to consider the motion and, of course, gave him the chance to do so. And Mahama Yarga of Boku Central also seconded the motion. After concluding of debate, the majority leader prayed the Speaker, Joyce, to ignore the minority's plea or request. When the Speaker was ruling, in fact, he mentioned that, just to be on record, the Deputy Speaker is not a Speaker of Parliament. He made that clear and proceeded to make his ruling. There, the NP for Asamwase, Muntaka Mubarak, raised an objection indicating that, well, there is a motion before you, and that motion, you would have to put it to a vote so that the MPs can vote on the motion. You cannot rule whilst a motion has been put before you. So whilst the Joyce was speaking, Muntaka Mubarak was also speaking. There was a clash of dialogues. I mean, before we realized the Speaker has ruled, dismissing the motion put before him by the minority leader Haruna Owusu. And the moment he did that, he suspended sitting for 1 hour because the NDC MPs were rushing towards where he was seated. And this is why I bring in Snobe, the Ashaman member of Parliament, into our conversation, because Aisha, in the midst of the chaos, he decided to, well, I want to engage him. Honorable Hakumsin, can you let me do this interview quickly with Honorable Hakumsin is trying to disrupt the interview with and that's not well. He's here with me. Honorable, I saw you clearly taking away the Speaker's chair. I mean, I want to understand why you did that. You took away the chair, the Speaker's chair.
Oh,
in the midst of the
I didn't just take the Speaker's chair. I did that on the notion and the ruling of the Speaker, of Honorable Osei Owusu, who is the Deputy Speaker. He said a Deputy Speaker is not a Speaker, so he's not the Speaker. But I was of the view that if you are not the Speaker, why then do you overturn the ruling of the Speaker? That is my point. And if you are not a Speaker, why sitting in that chair? Then the best thing is that we have to preserve the seat for Mr. Speaker to come.
We're going to attack him or what?
No. Why?
Because the way you moved towards...
No. By that time, he had left. I wouldn't have attacked him. Nobody would have attacked anybody. We debated the issue. And the point here is that when a motion is put and seconded, the debate comes in, and then you put it to vote. If you are going to dismiss the motion, you have to do that before even it is seconded. And so in this case, you have allowed 2 hours of debate. Then you are saying you are dismissing
But I want to be clear. In fact, when Joyce was speaking, he indicated to the entire House that there hasn't been a prior notice, an advance notice to him on this particular motion. And yet he decided to listen to the argument by the minority. So there were those who have argued that if you want to be technical about this issue, there was no motion before the House.
If there were not, or he was not prior noticed about the motion that was put, the honors lie on him to just dismiss it at the spot. He was supposed to dismiss it. that there was no motion before me. I was not given prior notice that this motion was going to be tabled, so therefore I dismiss it. Go and come properly. But you have allowed the motion to stand, to be seconded. When the motion is seconded, it means it stays. You've allowed people to debate. So much debate from both sides. Now, you say the next thing you could have done was to do what? To put the question. Now you said the motion, you are not the speaker. A deputy speaker is saying you are not the speaker. And when you look at our orders, standing orders, order 13, it's saying that when the speaker is out and the clerk announced it, then the first deputy speaker assumed the seat of the speaker with all the authorities and other things. And that was what Honorable Apenyomakin relied on yesterday to make his case. And so therefore, if today you are saying you are not the speaker, and for that matter you cannot rule on this issue, or we cannot count you as a speaker, which we are not supposed to vote, to have been voted, or to be added as a quorum, to form a quorum, to transact a business, then we, henceforth, we will start calling him Joe Wise or Honorable Joe.
Start calling him Joe?
Yeah, Honorable.
But the standing order says you have to refer to him as the speaker. Any member who mounts the speaker should be...
he said he is not a speaker.
No, but it is not yours to say. It is about the standing orders that you have to comply with.
And so, what happens to the standing orders today? If the standing order is saying that a deputy speaker is a speaker, any member who mounts that podium, who mounts that seat, becomes a speaker, a presiding member. And you are saying you are not a speaker. You declare that you are not a speaker. So we have to refer to you as such. That you.
So that was Parker Wilson speaking with Ernest Nogbe, who was the one who attempted to pull the chair of the first deputy speaker in Parliament, and that also resulted in that chaos we saw in the chamber. Parker is back. Let's listen to him.
To come and give us the next line of action. We are just waiting for our leaders. Whatever decision they take, we will oblige by it.
What decisions do you expect that your leaders take on this matter?
Well, I have trust and faith in our leaders, so any decision that they take, we will abide by it. We cannot preempt. I cannot preempt.
But what are you expecting?
Kind of decision.
You don't want to preempt, but what are you expecting?
No, you see, definitely the country will have to move on. The country will have to move on. There cannot be stalemate forever. And so therefore, if they all agree on one issue or the other, yesterday the finance minister was saying that they have taken into consideration some of the issues that we raised. And our problem is that if you have taken into consideration some of the issues that we've raised, then better still, you have to lay them before us. If these things are not laid before us, we do not know, Ghanaians do not know. But they are just worried about the statement that the budget was rejected on Friday, and so therefore they could not bring that the revised budget to the table. So if they are able to come out with certain decisions on that line, that, okay, we have agreed to meet you halfway, or whatever, the notion and the decisions of Ghanaians, we have agreed to kowtow to some of these things, why not? And lay it before us, make the Ghanaians aware of it. Then we are at peace. We are not rejecting the budget entirely.
We're live in Parliament and we'll bring you all the details. My colleague Winston Amwa, who is deputy head of the political desk here at JoyNews, joins me for a conversation on this. Winston, total disappointment from, to say the least, from our members of Parliament. The way they've conducted themselves in these last few days.
Well, actually, you can also say that it's been a deepening of our democracy. About the rejection of a budget in the Third Republic. We saw that happening on Friday. We're told that has been reversed. Now, if you look at the motion of rescission, so we're rescinding the decision to reject the budget. And the argument from that point would be, okay, so that particular decision valid, and then you're deciding to set it aside. There are lawyers who have argued that, look, when you are unhappy with what happened on Friday, what you do is to go to the court to say there's an illegality and so it should not stand. What Parliament did on Tuesday was to say that, well, this is a decision we took on Friday, but we want to reverse that decision, some lawyers have said. But for me, the most important thing here is that we're seeing a deepening of our democracy. when the president was giving his victory speech on the 9th of December 2020, after the Electoral Commission declared him a winner of the 2020 elections, one of the things he said was that the numbers we saw in Parliament was an indication that Ghanaians wanted us to work together. And so going forward, there was going to be a consensus building and collaboration between the majority and the minority. It was for that reason the president went into Parliament during his inauguration and talked about how he was hoping that we would look at, dealing with other issues through consensus building, the fight against galamsey. He talked about wanting to bring Ejapa back. Yesterday, you heard the finance minister say, well, Ejapa estimates are not even part for the estimates in the 2022 budget statement. So I see this as a deepening of our democracy. You've seen the issue being taken to court. And so when the Supreme Court rules, for instance, going forward, we will know whether or not the Speaker can count himself as part of members present and whether what transpired on Friday is legal or not. It only goes a long way to deepen our democracy. Yes, on the face of it, we would say this is bad, this is a total disappointment because it's not, the statistics are not good enough. You don't want to send this kind of signal to the outside world. But that is democracy.
Well, in the outside world, we've seen similar things happening there.
Exactly, and our democracy is only... our fourth Republican democracy is 29 years. And so these are sort of things you would see. And if we take it in good faith, test our laws, going forward, we wouldn't repeat them because there'll be clarity on them. So that's how I see it.
But more worrying is the posture taken by the minority following breakdown of engagement and consensus building. Definitely, this will have an implication on the business of the House, particularly when they are agreeing on motions. Remember, the budget has been approved, the statement has been approved, but of course, government can still not spend until the appropriation bill is approved. This would be problematic if we're still finding ourselves here.
Again, yes, it would be problematic, but you asked the question, Parliament has always worked on a consensus basis. And so when there's a lack of consensus, when there's breakdown of talks, this is what you should expect. And so the minority is only saying we expected the majority to, engage us so we can decide on what to do going forward. So
let me have you hold, because we need to go quickly to Parliament. Parker is with Cletus Avoka. He is also one of the front benchers for the minority. Let's go there live and listen to that conversation.
To debate. The law says that he cannot debate. Descend into the arena of an MP and then debate. If the law says so, if you don't, the law says you should not debate, how can that law say that you can vote? Vote on it, something that you did not take part in deciding, in debating? That is certainly wrong. That is certainly wrong. So I liken this to a referee in a match. To a referee in a match. You are a referee in a match. You blow a whistle for a penalty for one of the teams, and you say, I want to take the penalty. You blow a whistle for, a foul, or for throw-in, and you said, I want to go and make the throw-in. At the time that you are making the throw-in, who is refereeing?
But the argument has been made that he didn't vote in the proceedings. He only counted himself as a member of Parliament representing Bekwai constituents.
That is not a full appreciation of what he did. They were 137. In that case, they didn't form, they were not half of the House, which is 138, to be able to take a decision. And he said that he is part of 138. He's a member of Parliament for Bekwai, and therefore, as an MP, he's part of the 138.
So I want to know, this whole chaos, was it necessary?
It's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. The majority side are taking a very entrenched position, and I think that doesn't augur well for them. I have had occasion to advise some of them that if you are on the majority bench or the majority side, your duty is not necessarily to win the debate, but your duty is to get the decision so that your program can go on. They want to win the debate on the floor and get the mandate again to go and then do their programs. You cannot have that. That is why the principle is that let the minority have their say and let the majority have their way.
They are having their way.
They are having their way and they want to have their say. That is where we have the problem. They don't know. They don't appreciate the fact that with this hung parliament, you must be concerned about consensus building to be able to have your programs go through. I was a majority leader in 2010 to 2013. At that time, the difference between NDC and MPP was 9. In fact, it was 8. We were 119 and they were 111. Difference 8. And they took 40 MPs out as ministers and deputy ministers. So at every time every material time on the floor, we were in the minority. But I had to adopt a strategy of consensus building and being a team player. Much of the time, I'll call Che out, we discuss things. Before we even come here, I might go to his office and we discuss things and the rest of them. This is what they don't want to do. This type of ego doesn't help us. They are undermining the concept of consultation. Democracy means consultation. Democracy means consultative discussion and meeting. If they are able to employ that one, we'll go with them.
I see. Now,
there's a problem today. It's not only their side that will be affected, the whole parliament.
Now, the Speaker has suspended sitting for 1 hour.
Yeah.
What should we expect from the minority upon when the House resumes force?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know whether our leadership is going to call us to discuss or not. But I expect that within this 1 hour, the majority leadership will be able to reach out to the minority leadership and then to tell them that, look, let's bury the hatchet. Let's sleeping dogs lie. Let's put Ghana first rather than anything. Let's put this legal gymnastics first and talk about the larger interests of Ghanaians. I expect them to reach out to the minority and not the other way.
If that is not done, what then?
It becomes a challenge. We, as mature people, we will try to do what is necessary to move Ghana forward. But compromising on illegalities and then the unconstitutionality and the rest of them is not part of the program that we have in this parliament. We were prepared to compromise, and they did that. They met Monday and then yesterday for hours. And then we drew their attention to some of the areas that we were concerned about, e-levy, Ajapa deal, Accra, and the rest of them. And initially, I hear they were prepared to accommodate some of the issues. You have to have concessions. You concede here and then stand here and whatnot and whatnot. That is the meaning of if you want to have a consultation and the rest of them. They did that. And they said that in the afternoon after lunch, they will meet again to frame the earlier decisions. They met in the afternoon and then reneged and said that what they read in the Constitution earlier is what they, in the budget earlier is what they stand for. I think that that's unfortunate. They are embarking on entrenched position, and that will not help them against the background of this hung parliament.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cletus Avocat, there on the back of the hanged parliament. Of course, Edward Bauer and Kwame Agbeja, they're very upset. In fact, I saw Kwame Agbeja. Honorable, please come briefly. I saw you very upset today. Why were you so upset in the chamber this afternoon?
Well, it's quite obvious that the NPP knew what they did yesterday has no basis in law. They tried to maneuver and say all sorts of things. Article 102, 104, and our standing orders are quite clear. Mr. Speaker, I was surprised my good friend, Honorable Joe Owusu, even said, and you heard him, I'm not a speaker. And I can't understand. We elected him to be a speaker, and he enjoys privileges and other things. And I regard him a lot. You remember even all of us call him a wise speaker. But what he presided over yesterday was an illegality. And we were thinking that today, all of us are here. So you can put a vote. But they ran away. Once again, you knew that their numbers were not there. But for me, it's a sad day for our democracy. Because Speaker could have just accepted our motion. Because yesterday, it was the same way we watched on telly how Honorable Chairman Bonsu accepted and brought the motion. So I don't know what the NPP is scared of once we are in the chamber.
The argument is that there's no motion before the House.
There's a motion before the House. He decided to say that the motion that Honorable Haruna moved, he was not proud. He didn't write.
And you know the record.
We challenged him to bring the record that Honorable Chairman Bonsu gave him in terms of proud notice. Did you see him bring any record? He couldn't, because there's one. They can manufacture one before they come. But we know that he's just not being fair on this matter, because the MPP is determined to make the illegality they did yesterday to stand. And it's not going to stand. You know what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Look, until Mr. Speaker returns, this House will be 137 at best, isn't it? And if we vote, and it's 137, what does that mean? It's a loss, isn't it? So nothing will happen in this House. We can come to work all right, but we cannot take any decision. On any day, pound for pound, they will be in a minority, including today. Count them, they are less than our number. So if we take a vote today, we'll beat them. So to avoid that, they will use the tactics they are using. But you see, they should worry Ghanaians. This is not the democracy Ghanaians are looking for.
That is what they are saying, that why don't you, concede?
No. You see, the same thing they did during the election. They cheated us, beaten us, killed some of our people. Every Ghanaian says, oh, you go to court. They went to court, manipulated whatever they did. We accepted it. Today, we have people of SAL, not part of, they are not represented here. They never voted and anything. And even with that, we still have some constituencies that are being contested that we thought we won, but the court is refusing to pronounce on them. How long can the country expect NDC to be going back? In fact, you had news about we saying that, okay, and even the chief whip said it, where we have gotten to, what we need to do is to take on board the concerns of majority of Ghanaians, e-levy and other things, and say, okay, this is what we can offer. Yesterday, they went around, and NPP insists that they want to maintain everything. We can't go into a negotiation expecting to get everything you want. So the onus is on the NPP to respond to what the Ghanaians are saying. And you cannot use Parliament to bulldoze your way through. God knows why Honorable Bagbin is supposed to be the one sitting in the chair, and why Parliament is like this. It is supposed to augment the expectations of Ghanaians and for us to do things better. And we are ready to do that.
So, sitting suspended for 1 hour, when you return, what should Ghanaians expect from the minority?
Well,
because you were really agitating on the floor.
Yes, because I can understand why the speaker said he's not a speaker. I can understand how anybody, I've not been to law school before, would read Article 102 or 104 any other way. The person, in fact, if you read our standing orders, the definition of speaker even includes the person presiding. So today, if we decide that the first and the second deputy speakers are not around, this house can decide to make me a speaker temporarily. Once I sit there, I cease to be a person who qualifies to vote. And we understand that. So until we get to a point where the laws of this country, that's the constitution and standing orders, are interpreted judiciously, we're not going to have any common ground to work with.
So with the 2022 budget, you still insist that what happened yesterday is illegal?
It is rejected. What they did yesterday is an illegality. At best, they were 137. Because Mr. Speaker was not part of it. So if they claim we were 137 and our decision was not right, why is they are 137 right? So if they like, anybody will say that, okay, if that's the case, all of you have done it wrong. That's assuming without admitting. Let's start afresh. Let's put it to vote and see what will happen.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Kwame Aboja, the Member of Parliament for Adaklu, there indicating that, well, let's start afresh and see what happened. If you consider the NDC, what they did was wrong, of course, you can also perpetrate the same illegality that happened yesterday. So, as I mentioned, the House is suspended for an hour. They are yet to return. You understand that Joyce, being the Speaker of Parliament now, assuming the Speaker's role, is engaging the leadership of the House, i.e. the majority and the minority leadership, to build some level of consensus. So it is the hope that when they return, the minority guys is hoping that when they return, there will be some consensus built between the leadership, and they will follow the orders from their leaders. So let's wait and see within an hour, and then we'll bring all the update to our viewers who are expectant of the latest update in Parliament.
Definitely, this is something we are monitoring to bring to date our viewers on all the happenings in Parliament. Definitely, we also know that there's a press conference which is going to be held by the minority. We have all of that for you. But Winston Amwa is still here with me. Winston, earlier we were talking about the conduct of members of Parliament in there and how they've taken the interests of their constituents, whether they've taken it at heart or they're doing their own personal bid. Well,
I mean, Aisha, it's important you ask yourself the question, if you're a member of Parliament, would your constituents support, for instance, a 1.75% levy on electronic transactions? You're there as a representative of the people. And Cletus Avoka makes a very important point. And Cletus Avoka, who's been majority leader before, and has been in the House since 1993. He lost in 2004. He came back in 2009, and then he lost also in 2016, and is back again. He's one person who's been in Parliament for a very long time. And he makes a very important point. When Parliament talks about the minority having their say and the majority having its way, it is very instructive. The fact that in a debate, the minority, yes, would win the debate sometimes, but the majority would carry the day.
But what happened Friday and
yes, but the most important thing,
Tuesday,
what happened on Friday?
We don't know whether there's a majority or there's a minority.
And that's something the court will determine. But for me, Aisha, the most important thing is, with this hung Parliament, consensus building is what would win. Cletus Avoka makes a point about when he was in Parliament, and you were a parliamentary correspondent also at the time. In 2011, at the time we were about to pass the Appropriation Act, you realize that Member of Parliament then for Amenfi East, Joseph Boahinedu, who is today the CEO of Cocoa Board, raised an issue. It was the last day of sitting. Parliament had to come together, make the changes, because if those changes had not been made, government could not spend from 1st January.
And that could bring the whole nation to a halt.
Exactly. It is something that happens. We have seen Dua Jahu in the chair as First Deputy Speaker, suspending parliamentary sittings and, urging urging both sides of the House to agree, and then they would come back and inform the Speaker so a decision would be taken. The point is, look, if nothing changes and the minority is bent on ensuring that, they come in 137 every day and put everything to a vote, if there has to be a vote on the estimates of MDAs based on Article 104, which says that when there is, equal number of votes, the motion is lost. It means that we're going to end by the 14th or 15th of December when Alban Bagbin comes in, not doing anything. If you are a majority, is this what you want? No. If you're a majority, you want to see government business progress.
Definitely.
You say you want to reduce the e-levy by 0.25% to 1.5%. You say, I want to generate 6.9 billion Ghana cedis because I want to expand the economy. I want to develop the economy. The Ghanaians say, no, we cannot afford to pay 1.75%. What do you do? Do you consider a reduction? The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research have said, why don't you consider 0.5%? Because in Uganda, even when they consider the 1.0%, they eventually reduce it to 0.5%.
That's where the in conversation gets interesting, because now your constituents who have voted for you to be there to represent them see that you're not having their interest at heart.
And that's where, if you're the majority and the minority is proposing a 1%, look, get back and negotiate. They say they want a 1%. You say you want a 1.5%. Can you agree on, say, 1.2% or 1.25%?
So that you meet each other
halfway. Let the minority also agree that, look, we need money. The minority said, look at your expenditure. What expenditures can you cut? Under the circumstances, you cannot do anything about wages and salaries, which is estimated at 35 billion. You cannot do anything about interest payments of 37 billion. What can you do about goods and services? Can you reduce the goods and services? If you can, reduce it. What about statutory payments, government transfers? You cannot do anything about them. These are statutory payments that you must engage in. You can, however, do something about capital expenditure. But how is that going to affect the economy also going forward? And we've talked about, some of these things. So government has some options available to it. When it happens like that, you may probably consider a reduction in capital expenditure of 16 billion to maybe say 12 billion, 13 billion. There could be an impact. But then you say, this is what is going to happen to me because of, our inability to generate a lot of income. Some have also said to you that, look, the moment you say that the number of adult Ghanaians known to taxpayers or known to the Ghana Revenue Authorities increased from 4% to 86%, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, for instance, has been making some suggestions. Why don't you engage further and find out how you can, do this? They've talked about the fact that, look, when it comes to Momo transactions, and these are financial transaction taxes, when it comes to Momo transactions, look at it and look at which transactions are for the payment of goods or services. Those ones you probably may say, okay, hold on a minute. Those that are gifts, for instance, when there are gifts in there, you look at it and say, well, okay, you need to pay your gift tax. Gift tax is what? It's more than the 1.75%.
It's in there.
Exactly, and it's more than the 1.75%. So that's an avenue you could actually look at. So start nicely. You may go for it. How about even a consideration of, okay, probably doing this for a 2-year period and saying, let's start with 1.25%, we'll reduce it to 1% the following year.
All these
options
that
are
could
there.
Be brought to the table to make the conversation work out. My worry is that this is not the first time Parliament has had to negotiate, have engagement, both sides to agree on something that is in the chamber for approval. But this time around, I'm just trying to lay my hands on why the engagement has broken down. Do you know, what are your sources saying?
Well, there's a lot of political gain in all of this also. It should be made very clear that once you have a hung parliament and you're a minority and Ghanaians complain, you should make political capital out of it. And that is why, You know, in Parliament on Friday, we had 137.
From both sides.
From both sides. I mean, as the votes and proceedings.
No, on Friday, I'm not sure they were 137.
Well, according to the votes and proceedings, members present were 274.
Okay.
And
okay.
you realize that 137 persons voted to reject the budget, and it was 0. Now, the point is that for that motion to have been successful, you needed, the majority side to have all members present and voting against it. And voting for it. Unfortunately, that did not happen because we know, based on the votes and proceedings, that Sarah Adjua-Safo was not in Parliament on the day. So the majority did not have the numbers.
Yeah.
And if you are a minority, and they made a point, look, whatever is going to happen in years to come, reference will be made to this. But the minority, and you realize that in the course of the debate, Ibrahim Ahmed, Member of Parliament for Banda, asked where the finance minister or his representatives were. You have been a parliamentary correspondent before. I have been a parliamentary correspondent before. We saw Seth Tekbe in the time, always in the chamber when they were discussing Parliament. When discussing the budget. You also saw, if he wasn't around, you saw Fifi Kweti at the time, who was Deputy Finance Minister, in there. I mean, at the end of it all, you find Kobna Dufour coming in there. But the question was, why didn't anybody show up at the time? Look, when it comes to consensus building, you should be seen as wanting to play ball. If you're seen as being hard, whoever has the power would not budge also.
Definitely.
And that's the position the majority find themselves in now, because the minority has the numbers.
And of course, something must give. You must give in something. If you go to the consensus table and you're not willing to give, then we'll find ourselves here all the time.
So the point now is, if we're not able to reach a consensus, Parliament may have to continue to sit up until the 31st of December, I mean, when Alban Bagbin is in now, to consider all the estimates and then pass the appropriation bill.
So we are told that the press conference by the finance minister has been called off for now. We are still monitoring and see if it comes on, we'll bring it to you. But we're hearing that it may be held tomorrow. But be that as it may, we're still following, and we'll bring that to you.